Okay, so right here, before we start doing anything with JScut or anything like that, I thought it better to learn how to jog our machine and how to home it and stuff like that. Over here in this menu here where it's called axes, you have X, Y, and Z, and basically the machine is set up with the spindle in the middle of the bed, and it's about a third of the way down on the Y, and it's in the middle of the X, and it's saying 000. That's not right. That's not 000 on this machine. 000 on our machine should be back left corner. Right? So our home position is 000 for us. Alright? So if we rotate the camera over here and look at the machine, you can see, let me get this focus a little better here. That's not the home position. Okay? But the Chilipeppr says it's at 000. So don't confuse 0 and home as being the same. When you have your limit switches set up as homing switches, it makes that easy, because you can just push this right here and it will send this command G28.2 X0 Y0 Z0 A0 and send everything home. Before we do that, let's go ahead and push this jog button, and that'll let us move our head around, and down here it tells us what's going to move by 1 millimeter, 0.1, 0.01, 0.001, or you could set a custom, so that's going to be 10 millimeter moves. So if we click on the 1 and we go to our X, you can see up here X, it moves 3 millimeters. I clicked it 3 times. So say if I move it over here and I want that to be 0, that's pretty simple. I could say 0 out and it will 0 that out. Now the head has moved over 3 millimeters, but I made it 0 again, even though I moved it 3. So during setup, you can use the jog controls to get to a 0, but you just have to 0 out the axis. All right? Or you can click on this button right here if you've got your switches set up right, and the machine will home itself. So let me set the camera up on the machine, and I'm going to push the button and you can watch how those limit switches work. Okay, here you can see the machine. It's saying this is 000. Actually, 000 for us is back over here. A lot of machines put it in the bottom left corner. Some people want it in the center. For us, we set it up at the far away corner so we can get in and out easy with the machine and materials and stuff like that. So our 000 is there. So we've got 3 switches on the machine. We've got one on the back of the gantry plate. Okay, that's going to be our Y-axis. We've got one switch that when this raises all the way up, this plate hits the switch. It's on a 3D printed mount. That's our Z switch. And over here on the front, we have an X switch. So the way this is going to work, if we hit our home switch, it's going to lift up that head, okay? And it's going to hit it and it's going to back off, and that will be 0. So the idea for homing is to get this tool out of the way. So say you're cutting some material and you got a bunch of clamps and stuff down there. You don't want it just to go home without lifting the Z axis, so it always lifts the Z first. Now if you accidentally bump one of these switches, it's going to trigger an alarm on your board, and there's a little LED on the back that's going to say SPDIR. That's going to be flashing. All you have to do is go hit reset, and it'll reset the board, and that's reset on the TinyG, or you can hit the reset inside the Chilipeppr app. So let's go ahead and hit our home button, home axes, and there goes the Z, and it backs off. It's going to move over to the X. It's going to hit the switch. It's going to back off just a hair, and then it's going to move the Y back. It's going to hit the switch, and then it's going to come forward. Now we are at 000 actual. Home is at 0, and we're ready to do some work. So our switch is set up like this, where we have a 3D printed part. It's mounted to the side of the gantry, and it holds a switch. Okay, it's set up to use the holes that are mounted for the extrusion. Okay, and it's got another hole that indexes around the V-wheel hole. So this part just lays up on there at the bottom, and then the switch bolts in to the 3D printed part. Okay, the lever comes down to another 3D printed part that's held on by some T-nuts. That's an L shape. So when this comes back, boom, it hits the switch and then it backs it off until the switch is no longer depressed, which is like right up in that area, and that's how that switch works. Okay, so here's the X switch. Again, it's mounted with a 3D printed part. It uses T-nuts to hold an L shape, and it's a 3D printed part again, like I said, and this switch bolts right to it. The X carriage comes over, just kind of goes over like that, and then it triggers the switch. Sorry I can't get a better angle for you, but it just uses the side of the carriage to run into that switch. Okay, here's our Z-axis. Let me bring that down. Here's our switch. It's mounted to a 3D printed part. The 3D printed part, it bolts right onto the face in the holes for the stepper motor, the bottom one, and it rests up against this bolt in the top for the top stepper motor, and the switch just mounts here. And you can make your printer part longer, but make sure that you don't make it so long that your bottom plate bottoms out onto the bottom of the gantry plates or your carriage plates. So the idea is here, when it goes up, the lever on the limit switch, it triggers it, it hits it. When it bottoms it out, right there, it backs it off until it's just there, and that becomes your home. All right.